This is my audience. Hello, I, Allie Waterchak, will be talking about genetically modified foods. Genetically modified foods are crop plants that are created for human and animal consumption using molecular biology techniques. Since this has a lot to do with scientific experimentation, there are many advantages and disadvantages to genetically modifying food. We want to get desired traits from foods as well as making them produce faster. Creating genetically modified foods may have some disadvantages, but I think that they are more helpful than harmful. The government thinks that it is a cheap way to stimulate the economy, but many people think there are ethical issues that relate to it. There are many advantages that go along with making genetically modified foods, but I believe that will help the way we grow food. One of the biggest advantages in creating genetically modified foods is how it can help farmers' crops. Genetically modified foods increase crop productivity as well as simply getting desired traits to get best results. The crops can also have better nutritional value and be much larger than average, and it can also create higher yields of food at a cheaper cost. For third world countries, this could possibly cure malnutrition and starvation. With the creation of newer and better crops and planting techniques, making genetically modified foods can also ultimately save money for customers and farmers. With all this new security in producing new crops, we could in turn allow animals to benefit from genetically modified foods. Animals will gain from genetically modified foods as well as being genetically modified themselves. If farmers use technology to genetically modify animals that we use for production of meat, eggs, and milk products, it can save consumers money. Animals can be genetically modified to improve their health and make them leaner, as well as create hardier foods and be resistant to disease. This will make better animals that will produce higher quantities of food and higher yields. Genetically modified foods can also have different genes that will allow them to eat less, as well as saving money for farmers on feed. Genetically modified foods not only help crops and animals, but they also are good for the environment as well. GM products can conserve water, soil, and energy by simply using specific traits in crops and animals that allow them to run on less of these things. One of the biggest concerns for the crops is to use pesticides and herbicides to kill weeds. GM crops can be altered to not be affected by these chemicals. This means that there is less use of chemicals that cause harm to the environment and contaminate the crops. GM crops can also be more efficiently processed in a healthy environment. I believe that genetically modified foods are good for the environment, although there are some disadvantages to them. There are many different safety issues when genetically modified organisms that make it disadvantageous to the public. There are potential human health impacts, such as allergens. Without the use of planting and creation techniques, scientists make a whole new array of genes that consumers may be allergic to. Although GM products can help the environment, they also have unknown effects to their products and help the environment that organisms can potentially hurt them. Those who disagree with GM foods may find it hard to see that 60% of the food that we consume today is genetically modified. With the mixing of GM foods and non-GM foods, there is a deficiency in correct labeling, which can also mislead or harm humans by not listing the ingredients to avoid them. Safety is a huge factor in the production of food, but there's also a fear of foods being monopolized or put under too much control. There are many laws that protect GM foods from intellectual property and allow access to companies for them to sell GM foods. New products can easily be merchandised by only a few companies. This would also make the United States have an increased dependency on industrialized countries and developing countries due to the huge market that the economy would gain. Finally, there would be foreign exploitation of natural resources if there weren't any intellectual property rights laws. People turning GM foods into basically just a way to find new money and stimulate the economy is terrible, but many people also worry about the ethics of genetically modifying foods. Many people think that genetically modified organism is a violation of natural environmental processes. Some think that scientists are tampering with nature by mixing of genes to create new species. There is a huge objection to the consumption of unnatural genes because people think that it puts stress on animals. I thoroughly agree with people that that think it hurts animals, but in the same point, I think that in the end we're going to eat the animals anyway, so we're hurting them. I still believe that the advantages of creating genetically modified organisms outweighs the disadvantages. If people were more worried about violating organisms, they aren't thinking to save our environment and help the human race by using new techniques to do so. If the government managed control of expenses of genetically modified organisms, there wouldn't be issues of companies taking over the industry. If the government could properly label all foods products, there wouldn't be potential harm to humans. Genetically modified foods have both advantages and disadvantages that greatly affect the lives of humans and animals. Some of the advantages include helping crops, animals, and the environment production. However, some disadvantages include safety, company and foreign exploitation, and ethics. I believe that overall the issues against GM foods are much less than the help it can do to our world. This is one of the rising issues that is greatly advanced technology and science. There will always be newer technologies and studies that will help eliminate issues that go along with GM foods. Thank you for your time.